If your garden's big enough to put a shed in it or some kind of feature like this, then you should attempt to do it. Nearly coming up to 3 years ago, probably towards the back end of this year, it'll be 3 years will have been up at Grassy Bottom. And one of the first things that I set to do and wanted was a shed. And it was just going to be an 8x6 shed originally. I did order one, or I tried to order one, and at the time wood was becoming really expensive, and people was finding it hard to get hold of as well. So I was given a quote, and the quote was a good one, to be quite honest. It was only £600 for an 8x6 shed that would be built better than your average shed that you buy at the usual DIY stores. It was going to be far better. But the person never really got back to me. So I thought, well, I'll set about and make my own. So I set about on the shack. And originally, I just wanted it in this corner here, because this corner here has this lovely tree. And I wanted to sort of highlight that tree, and putting something like a shed next to it would kind of bring it into focus, I guess. Now, because I had to build it myself, it gave me great opportunities. If I'd just ordered it, I would have got an 8x6 shed, and that's what I would have got. I would have got what I wanted, which was this upstand, but to a lesser degree. So, together with a friend, I built the framework for the shed, but I raised it off of the ground to start with because, as I've mentioned before up at Grassy Bottom, it's probably easier to take you around the other side. We have a bit of a falling garden here, so it drops down, so it's not a level playing field, as you can see from that. So the left side's a lot lower than the other side. So what I did was I put it onto these, they're really classed as garden, well, I forget what they call them now, but it's a railway sleeper, but the modern way. So they're not as good as the railway sleepers that you could have bought just 5 years ago, relatively cheap. But they're adequate. And on each corner, there is one of those. Now, I didn't want it to look boring. I wanted it to have this overhang. I wanted to be able to sit at it. And I wanted to be able to look at the garden. So with that in mind, I put that great big overhang onto it. Now, it took best part of 1.5 years to build this, because I'm not a builder, I'm not a joiner. But I love to get my teeth into stuff like this. So I set building it, we built the frame, I lined it with some plywood. I got hold of the plywood cheap. They were practically giving away this plywood. So I ended up getting it really cheap. So I lined it outside, not only on the outside, but also on the inside. Let's just take a quick look inside. So it's lined in here as well, as you can see. So we've lined it on the roof as well. And I've actually insulated this as well. Now, over time, we're going to paint this. Well, Kathy's going to paint it. I'm not. She's going to paint that. And we use it for just really for sitting inside. So let's show you. So when you're actually sat down in the shack, this is the view we get. And it is a lovely view. You've got to admit that's a lovely view. Now, originally, it was just going to be a little shed, somewhere to congregate, somewhere to maybe sit when the rain was causing a problem. So as I got going, I thought, do you know what? I think I want a little bit more than just an ordinary 8x6 shed. So I went the whole hog, and as I could afford it, I bought more and more bits and bobs. This is pallet wood. It's just basic pallet wood. Somebody local sells it. He already strips it down, and then you just collect it. And I decided that I would put pallet wood on the front. I also decided that I would use gravel board, which is basically what some people term as kickboard, and I put that up there in these fins. So these fins run right through into the inside and give it extra strength. Now, I termed it the shack because I just wanted to give it a name. I like to give everything a name. That light comes from a very old farming estate where I was allowed to take it. and it just looks good. It's not powered up. I don't really need to have any power to it. There's no point. On the outside, I wanted tin. I almost wanted it to have this sort of, without saying it, an Australian look, really, like the tin shacks that they have over there, and I wanted to do that. And so I decided I would get these. Now, I was lucky because, again, we've got a place that supplies all this tin local to us, and they had this excess of this. And it was obviously from an order that they couldn't sell, or they didn't need it anymore, that they'd ordered for somebody. So I clad it with that. The corners I wanted to highlight. Because you give these things depth and body, and if you do put a little bit more effort into it, you can make it look a lot better than it is. And again, these are simple gravel boards. There's nothing special about them. They've been screwed to the outside, and they serve a purpose. They just make it look good. Now, I went to the extreme. I also put some gravel board up there as well with those fins. I didn't need to, but I wanted to. Now, although that's white at the minute, this is reclaimed off Grassy Bottom, that particular guttering, and it's going to be painted black. I've reclaimed a lot of stuff. This isn't yet tied back. There's little bits and bobs, little snagging jobs, as we call them, and this needs pushing back. I collect the water here, which really helps. But, as I said, I wanted something a little bit more unique to me. And as I'm a bit quirky, this did the trick. I had to concede with the door. I actually ended up having to get a joiner to put me the framework together because it was taking me too long. So I got a joiner to build me the framework, and then I set about infilling it, which did really well. Which I did really well. As I said, I'm not a joiner, so it's always good to get somebody to help. Now, it was just supposed to be a shack or a shed, 8x6, with a little bit at the front that you could sit on, and so it was. I built a bit of decking, and actually you can still see the original decking. So that joint there, all the way back, that's where it was. That's all it was. And it's just somewhere where myself and Kathy congregated, sat down, friends congregated there, but it wasn't big enough. I realised it was a good place to natter and to while away the hours. So I set about putting a decking on it. And that's what I've done. Put this decking on. I put the handrail on for safety, really, because there's about a 3-foot drop the other side. And I have a disabled daughter, Sophie, who comes and stays over, and she likes to come up here, and I just didn't want to put her in any kind of danger, so that's there to deter her. So the decking got built, and then Kathy suggested putting a boardwalk on. Now I've got to give Kathy that one because she did suggest it. I probably would have done this long term because I was not happy with the entranceway, which was a grass path up to it, and I didn't quite like that. I wanted to be above the plants to see them from a different angle. So I set about this boardwalk. These are just 4x4 posts knocked into the ground. I have cemented these ones in. I wouldn't normally, but I only cemented these in just to give them an extra stability. And it's got the step up there. Now, it's got 2 round posts at the beginning. I had intentioned to do a kind of an entranceway there, but on hindsight, when you start building these things, you have fresh ideas, and that's where I had. So I decided round posts at the front, and then we go to square posts. We've used just a black garden paint or garden fence paint to paint it, and then same on the shack itself. We've done that with that. And I use it, like I say, for sitting, meandering, whiling away the hours. And I really like it. And I'm so chuffed with this. It's unbelievable. You kind of get yourself into a sort of a situation where you need somewhere like this to just rest yourself, and I needed that. So I absolutely love it. It's taken some time. It's cost me an arm and a leg, blood, sweat and tears. But the end result has been well worth it. So the idea of the boardwalk was to walk up through the flowers and to enjoy those and enjoy them from a different angle. And that's what I've done. So you can see these borders are establishing. They're not there yet, but they're looking good. Some of the plants are at the size I'd intended, some are not. There's a lot of maturity to come in yet. There's a couple of shrubs and trees that will do their thing over time and help this to settle into its environment, which I think it already does anyway. So we get lots of lovely views from it, and I often walk around it at night. Like I do the garden, I often walk around it and enjoy it. And sometimes it catches me as to the beauty of it. And I know I made it, but I just find it really, really nice. And that's another view. I've just got caught up on my flowers. They're attacking me. So we'll just undo that. Okay, we're out. Dear me. Anyway, so basically, that was the idea behind it, was to be able to enjoy it, and which I've done. So just bear with me a minute. The camera's gone mental. There we go. Right, so I've actually completed it now, as far as I'm concerned. There's little bits and bobs I'd like to change on it. I might add to it. I don't know. There's little features I like about it, and some features I'd like to improve. But for now, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it alone. But we get all these sort of views. So the boardwalk just looks absolutely fantastic. And when you look at it through the borders, like I'm doing here, it's just absolutely brilliant. Bear with me, because this camera's gone absolutely doolally. Okay, right, we're back. I'm not going to edit that out. I just want to show you that I do these things live, I caught the plant, and it just caused a problem with the handle that I use. Anyway, so we've got that, and we've built it, we've finished it, we've added some bird boxes to it, we've planted up around it. I've got some old logs here. I'm going to build myself an hedgehog little station under there for the hedgehogs to go to. We've got hydrangeas, we've got aces, amongst other things. Now this is going to have a little bit of a change around, because it's changed since I put it in. Since I put this border in, things have changed around it. But the acer and the hydrangea will be fine, as will the Amelanchier. That'll probably be fine, but probably too big over time, so that might have to be moved. The grass is fine, it should take it there, and other things are okay. And I use, as you can see, I use the decking itself to put on plants like that. So I sit them there. Some of those have got to go in, but for now they're okay. So we walk around and I find bits like this. So this wrought iron thing, it cost an arm and a leg, but I bought that. Put it in, and it looks good against this. There's no reason for it to be there other than aesthetics, and it looks nice. We've got this Hylotelephium rather. Symphotrichum. It's a Symphotrichum, which is the old aster, and it's a really nice one. That's Calliope with the dark stems, and it's beautiful, and it looks good against there. And I've put that against it, which is, well, really, it's a bit tender, this Fatsia, but here it'll be fine. Fatsia japonica, it'll do fine there, and we've added some of my grasses around, as you can expect. And then I get little bits and bobs that I find or I buy, like that, and we just sit them around it, just for the enjoyment, really. So it's looking really good, and I'm really happy with it. And like I say, we've got the inside to paint out yet, but that's fine, all in time. It'll be fine, and it's looking nice. And I just wanted to show you it and to update you, because I have done YouTubes on it before, but I can't remember having actually done a final on it, a final shooting. So, and this won't be the final shooting, because we shall change things as we go along. So yeah, I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. It's not out of the realms for the average person to do something like this, as I did. It's not out of the realm for you to do it. It just takes a bit of time, a bit of patience, a bit of money, and I appreciate that, again, that people are on budgets, and it's not within everybody's purse, but I've managed to do it, and I've just done it as and when I can afford it. I've added to it, and if I can't afford it, I get on with building a border, because borders, to dig them out, don't cost nothing but a bit of sweat. and that's about it. So it looks great. I don't really know what else to say about it. I just absolutely love it, and I know I keep saying I absolutely love it, and I do, and it's just fantastic. And it over time, some of the mature plants will help to settle it even further. I've got a Fargesia bamboo over there called Robusta Formidable, which will grow big and fast, but it will stay as a clump. And it's there to sort of almost disguise yourself or disguise me when people come into the garden and walk down the driveway. That bamboo there, will sort of distract the viewer and add to it, and it'll get to maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 foot, and that'll look really nice, and it'll blank you off. So it's great. Love it. Absolutely love it. And it's looking good there with the planting, and planting can be either very successful on these things, or you can make big mistakes. So you've got to take your time and plan it and go for some sort of a scheme like I do. I've got my own eclectic taste, and that's what I do with this. So lots of man-made materials around it. I like to do that. It adds interest, intrigue. It tells a story. The one thing I think I will change on that is that light above the shack. I think I'm going to move it to the left or to the right, because every time I photograph it, it tends to disguise either the or shack, and it's a bit difficult to see it. So I'm going to move it across. As it's not got no power in it, that's not going to be very hard to do. So there you go. The shack, and a little bit more of an explanation about it. Have a go at it. You never know, you might be able to achieve something like this. You could buy yourself a 6x4 shed and just set to convert that and add to it, put things on it, make the roof bigger, overlap it, put a cladding on it, some sort of cladding, as and when you can afford it. These things become available, and they're not always expensive. Sometimes you can pick them up cheap, and have a go. So there you go, the shack. I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da.